Welcome to Good Game. I'm Hex.
And I'm Bajo.
This week on the show, we journey across the universe in search of a new home with Civilization Beyond Earth.
Oh, can we take our pets?
Yes.
Also this week, a game with a little less strategy and a lot more mayhem, Sunset Overdrive.
You know what you should have said? We go into overdrive with Sunset Overdrive.
Writes itself.
And we move it and groove it with Dave Callan with reviews of Just Dance Now and Dance Central Spotlight.
But before all that delicious gaming goodness, can you name this game?
United 205. Turn right to 180 at 1,000 feet.
Here's what's making headlines this week. A crackdown by the UK government could see perpetrators of online harassment jailed for 2 years. The UK's online harassment law was introduced in 2004 with a 6-month maximum sentence. The planned hike in sentencing comes in response to a series of high-profile online abuse cases, including rape threats against model Chloe Madeley. Justice Secretary Chris Grayling has stated that no one would permit such venom in person, so there should be no place for it on social media. Ubisoft Toronto's founder and managing director Jade Raymond has left the company. During her 10-year term with Ubisoft, Raymond served as a producer on the first Assassin's Creed and was executive producer on Assassin's Creed 2, Watch Dogs and Splinter Cell Blacklist. Raymond will be succeeded by Ubisoft Toronto co-founder Alexander Parizo. Upcoming crowd-funded racing sim Project Cars has been delayed until 2015. The game was originally slated for a November 2014 release, a very busy period for game launches. Ian Bell, the studio head at Slightly Mad Studios, said that the change in release date allows the game the greatest chance of success and visibility. And now we cross quickly to the esports desk. The League of Legends World Championship for 2014 has come to an end. Over a 2-week tournament, 16 teams from around the globe competed for a prize pool of over $2 million. The ultimate prize went to South Korean team Samsung Galaxy White after they beat opponents Starhorn Royal Club 3-1 in the grand final. The team took home a cool $1 million.
He says, I'm really happy.
And that's all for this week.
Thanks, Goose. You can never have just one more turn of civilization, because 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 400. This is the Sid Meier strategy sinkhole, and we're going all the way in.
In the twilight of Earth's great civilizations, we were chosen.
What's ours is yours, for a price.
Civilization Beyond Earth is more than just a space-age civ skin. Developed by Firaxis Games, this is a genuine attempt to rewrite some of the old rules in a fresh sci-fi setting.
Yes, after 5 games exploring the history of Earth, it's now time to forge a brave new world in deep space. You start by picking a leader for your spacefaring expedition, each one representing a different culture of Earth.
В простых словах, пожалуйста.
Then you choose your colonists, for instance, whether they should be scientists or artists. Next, you select your spacecraft's tech, with each one having a starting perk, like being able to see coastlines or particular resources. And lastly, your cargo, which starts you with a bonus unit or tech advance. I really liked having to make all these little decisions right at the start and stress over them. It gave me a clear agenda. We're going to this new planet, get on board, artists, we're going to teach these aliens some culture.
I think I took aristocrats, a life form sensor, and a soldier, so not the friendliest landing party. After touching down and establishing your outpost, your first explorer can push back some of that fog of war to see what's lurking nearby on this strange new world. And usually it's a swarm of giant insects.
Yes, these are the planet's indigenous aliens, who are a constant problem to all the human settlers in the game. They make the barbarians of Civ 5 seem quaint. They infest the planet and you're always having to deal with them.
Yeah, and those big siege worms that pop up out of the ground, they're savage if you annoy them. While the aliens are a threat, they're actually relatively neutral. They only get aggressive if you're near a nest or if you start killing them in great numbers.
I felt bad bombarding those peaceful alien whales. But hey, that's progress.
I think the aliens are one of the most interesting new dynamics to this Civ, and that's because they tie into this whole affinity system. As you expand and develop your colonies, your scientific research earns you points towards either harmony, where you become one with the aliens and their planet, purity, where you strive to maintain your humanity, or supremacy, where you embrace cybernetics and AI. Pursuing all of these is really interesting.
Yeah, I like that you can steer towards one of these affinities and then change tack. It's still better to focus down on one though. And that's because each affinity has its own victory to chase. And to get there, you need to fulfill lots of little quest objectives.
I like the way these deploy a little bit more narrative into the game. They can be anything from needing to explore a ruin, to performing covert ops on a city, or to develop a specific technology. And there are those quest decisions too.
Yeah, you do feel like you're shaping victory on your own terms. There are still two universal victories: wiping everyone out, or winning a scientific race, which in this game is about building a communications beacon for contact.
All human history has led us to this point.
But now with the affinity victories, there are 5 ways to win, which opens up the game so much more.
I like how the military units evolve visually to reflect your affinity. The Harmony troops start to look a little bit insectoid, for instance. All 3 affinities end up looking quite different from each other as they gain their perks and upgrades.
Which is good because everyone has the same sort of units really in terms of their function. There is another thing to worry about though, the orbital layer. This lets you launch satellites to do things like harvest energy or provide defensive bonuses. I tended to neglect this side of the game a bit though, Hex. It just didn't seem that crucial to make use of it.
You can gain some hefty benefits from using satellites, but I know what you mean, it feels like it could have been used for more. Elsewhere, there's a new virtue tree which works a little bit like social policies did in Civ 5. Here you can direct your colony to focus more on things like industry or knowledge. Again, it's about letting you tweak how your Civ develops.
Yeah, and I love having another menu of little decisions to make. And Beyond Earth certainly feels like a busier game in that respect.
You know, maybe my expectations for this game were a little bit wild, but I was kind of expecting something a bit more epic in scale.
Me too, and underneath it all, it really does feel like more of a variation on Civ 5 rather than a new game type. You're still going through the same motions: building workers, managing food output, trading resources, building up armies to fight small wars, and yet again engaging with stubborn and inflexible AI opponents.
Imposible.
Nunca.
Where are the intelligent alien leaders, or a self-aware AI, or a race of cats? It's a bit of a wasted opportunity.
Yeah, and I thought there'd be more variety of, like, you know, cool alien planets to play on. But it's essentially the same planet each time, with the same bug aliens, the same resources and environmental factors to navigate. Obviously you can change the landmass size, and there are some slight aesthetic options like a bit more fungus, more tropics, or more desert. But I guess I just expected to enjoy a little bit more discovery.
Yeah, maybe it was a balancing issue, keeping the same planet and the same set of parameters for each game. It does look great though, with its toxic miasmas and open fissures.
I love how you're pioneering Civilization, Bajo, are all just the suburbs of Sydney. Oh no, Hornsby's under attack.
I found it lovely down in Bondi this time of year. I just find it easy to navigate all of the cities when you put them in some sort of geographical sense. Pro tip.
Defending cities is now more streamlined, which is good. They all have a ranged attack by default, which can totally save your bacon. And cities earn a defense rating based on a variety of factors, not just on what unit you garrison there.
I love how tense it gets just before you take on an opposing neighbouring city by force. Building up your armies on the border, as if they don't notice. And then, yep, we're going to war, sucker! I also really like the technology tree.
Yes. And it's a proper branching tree of research possibilities, not a linear evolution of technology like in Civ 5. It's definitely more challenging to explore, and it should make it that much harder to predict what your opponents are up to.
Yes, I wish they'd been as brave with the rest of the Civ formula. But even so, even with all my little gripes, I still enjoyed playing this. I just love Civilization. And I think there's just enough new stuff to keep Civ feeling fresh for some time, so I'm giving it 8.5.
I think we'll need to play a lot of Beyond Earth to learn its true subtleties. It is a little bit more predictable than I was expecting, but I think we can look forward to some interesting strategic tussles with that affinities system. So I'm giving it 8 out of 10.
And now here's Dave.
Hi, I'm a dance Viking. Dancing games, whether you love them or hate them, you must admit make a refreshing change from shooting people and stabbing people in the virtual face. So I'm here to talk Dance Central Spotlight and Just Dance Now. But just so as you know, these versions are basic stopgaps until the fully fledged sequels arrive.
Lately, I've been losing sleep, dreaming about the things that we could.
Dance Central Spotlight is an Xbox One exclusive downloadable title, and although fairly bare bones, it's still quite good for the price, like a sexy skeleton. You get 10 tracks with your base game, and of course, there's DLC aplenty. There are 8 routines for each song, with the first 4 covering easy, medium, hard, and pro difficulties. The game makes you play them in order, unlocking the required number of moves before you can progress. The next 4 routines are separate and include exercise versions such as cardio and strength. The cardio version of each track will get your heart rate up and count the number of calories you've burned, although let's be honest, the strength versions do not really make you strong. You could play the routines with hand weights, but for the most part the routines are heavy on the squat thrusts, so the only muscle you'll be strengthening is your glutes, which is fine by me. The bigger my booty, the better. My anaconda don't want none unless you got buns, hun. You progress through the game by nailing the individual moves that make up a routine. Once mastered, the move turns gold to symbolize that you've then collected its card. The routines are amazing. They're incredibly well done. Everything from the beginner to the pro level is covered. Here's a few of my favorite moves. Oh, I'm thinking carefully about how hot the floor is. Brush away excess swag. This is called Binoculars and Surprise. One problem dance fans may find is where there's original existing music video choreography, the game opts for original moves instead. I'd like to see a dance game where they license the video clip choreography, so we could, for example, learn Christopher Walken's dance from the Weapon of Choice video, complete with wire and harness peripheral so you can go flying around the room. So let me guess, there's no budget for a wire and harness. According to the script right now, I'm supposed to ride up. No? There are 6 characters to choose from, each representing different subcultures. There is Music Festival Tragic Amelia, Hipster Miss Aubrey, Pimptastic Mo, TLC Reject Tay, Backstreet Boy wannabe Bodie, and Glitch, who looks like the McLovin guy when he plays the bad guy out of Kick-Ass. Plus, if you dance your little heart out, collecting 600 moves, you can unlock the Uber Troopers, which are the normal characters reimagined as the offspring of Daft Punk and the Power Rangers. Unfortunately, like previous Dance Central titles, the lead characters say things that make absolutely no sense, even if you are down with the street talk.
Where's the pepper? Yo, things about to get salty up in here.
What?
That flavor, that style, you can do no wrong.
What? The good thing is that the soundtrack is more varied than ever. Recent bangers like Ariana Grande's Problem are mixed with old party anthems like Love Shack, and there are even some Triple J favorites amongst the DLC like Little Talks from indie darlings of Monsters and Men. And I do like the DLC model. It's essentially build your own custom soundtrack. I like the fact that you don't have to pay for songs you don't want. For example, Lady Gaga's Marry the Night. I mean, I'm all about marriage equality, but seriously, you have to draw the line at marrying a time of day. When what we're all going to be out at the weekend, Gaga's going to come up going, hey, get out of my husband. This game really does show how fast and accurate Connect 2.0 is. There's a lot less standing around like a noob Jedi. It reads you perfectly, but allows some margin of error, which is perfect, especially on the last few advanced routines.
Yeah, some of these are a little crazy. Hit up the DJ if you want to practice.
Even though it's not a fully fledged sequel, I really enjoyed Dance Central Spotlight. Its price point and the variety of DLC make it a must-have for dance tragics with a Connect. I'm giving it 8 out of 10. And just in case you non-Xbox One owners want a quick dance fix, there's Just Dance Now available on iOS and Android. The gameplay is like any old version of Just Dance for the Wii. You hold the phone in your hand like a Wiimote and either use the Just Dance Now website on your smart TV or computer or the companion tablet app to act like your TV. I was skeptical at first, particularly when, during Party Rock Anthem, I almost threw my smartphone through the window. However, the game picks up your movements surprisingly well. But if you do end up damaging your $1,249 smartphone, well, I guess there's no point getting bent out of shape about it. The initial song selection is limited to 7, with one unlockable Cola product placement track available if you play for 7 days in a row. I forgot to play yesterday. I'm gonna have to start again. That is actually true. I did forget to play yesterday. Now I have to start the 7 days over. If you want access to the full library compiled from the last few years of Just Dance games, with dozens and dozens of songs, you can pay a subscription fee, which is $69.99 for 1 year. So, if you sign up for the full app experience over, say, 3 years, you've essentially paid for the console version 3 times over. I personally believe switching to a subscription model is a poor choice. Remains to be seen if the public embrace it. I truly wish there was a cross-platform license for these tracks. I love the idea of buying a track and the associated choreography and having it available to me no matter what device I'm going to play on. So paying for the same content again for Just Dance Now has taken the disco a little bit out of my step. However, I've got to say, it's great that this is portable. Just Dance Now can be played anywhere, even outside in the sun. Just Dance Now's strength is in its portability and the fact that the basic version is free. The pricey subscription model for the full version, I feel, may disappoint loyal fans. It's 6 out of 10 for me.
Now I'm blue as I can be. Our love come get me down.
Thanks, Dave. Almost 3 decades ago, gamers around the world made Super Mario leap into the air for the very first time. And this simple act of the press and release of a button to jump was pure digital bliss.
And what's more fun than jumping? Bouncing.
Proceed to the altar. Silence, fool!
I'll drink it!
Seriously? This is not good.
Sunset Overdrive is an open-world apocalypse adventure from the makers of the Ratchet & Clank and Resistance series Insomniac Games. And it's immediately apparent that they've taken everything that was fun from those games and added a bucket load of colour. The result is pure, delicious, sugar-laden candy.
Yeah, it certainly gets the endorphins going, doesn't it? From what we'd seen of this game earlier in the year, we were a little bit skeptical about whether or not they'd get the tone right, weren't we?
Yeah, that initial trailer was pretty awful.
Yeah, but I'm happy to say this is actually a really fun, light-hearted, exploded jumpathon. Let's talk about why. After a brief bit of customization, you begin the game running through the streets from what appears to be a mutant invasion. You soon learn that a popular energy drink has the nasty side effect of turning people into squishy nasties.
Naturally, you want out of the city, but standing in your way is a strange, mysterious, invisible wall, hundreds of mutants, robots, and bandits.
But what makes Sunset Overdrive stand out more than anything else is the style of combat. It's all about motion.
If you stand still, they'll murder you.
You never stop moving. There's no cars to drive, no reloading. You need to grind, bounce, dash, and chain them all together to keep out of enemy fire. If you stop, death will find you.
We recently spoke with Marcus Smith, creative director at Insomniac, about the concept for the game and how it all started.
The initial greenlight pitch that we did to Ted Price and Al Hastings and Brian Hastings, who are the owners of Insomniac, was a bit of a mess. Drew Murray, who's the game director, and we had this vision for the game, but we didn't want it clouded too much by story and gameplay. So we pitched a game based on ideas and feelings, and we said it's going to be a lot like I Am Legend, the book by Richard Matheson, and here are all these influences, visual influences or pop culture influences. So we had pictures of Iggy Pop, we had Kenyan Hyena Men, we had Jamie Hewlett artwork from Tank Girl and Gorillaz.
Chill out, Mussolini!
I am the truth master, and this is my truth!
Crazy fashion that we had found. It was a mess, and they basically were very polite and said, how about you come back in a week and tell us the story and the gameplay? We were thinking to ourselves, what would happen if we made a game that was sort of for people who grew up on Ratchet and Clank games, on Spyro the Dragon games, that was a little bit more mature, a little bit more of a broad open world experience. So that really was how we developed Sunset Overdrive.
Time for some extreme violence!
It's more fun to play our game when you're constantly traversing. So you're bouncing off cars, you're wall running, you're grinding. There had been various games that our designers had made, and it was basically floor is lava, like you play as a kid. You jump on couches and you do all these. So we actually do have a section of the game where we literally make it floor is lava and you can't touch the ground and you have to find your way around. But that feeling is very prevalent throughout the game. You'll traverse through the world not touching the ground ever in a lot of cases. As you get better and better and better, you don't need it. You don't need that ground anymore. So it very much is like that kid's game in your living room, jumping from object to object and hopefully not getting your head busted up in stitches and whatnot that your mom always warned you about.
I think it's a brave choice, Bajo, for a big open world game to focus its combat so heavily on motion.
Yeah, I agree, but you can tell they've worked really hard at it. This is one of the most fluid parkour systems I've ever used in an open world game before.
Yeah, and they've hit such a good balance. You're actively involved in the parkour, but it's still forgiving enough to keep that momentum going.
Thank you for not making me start at the bottom.
And I think the key part of that is forgiving enough. It's not just one button to climb everything. You're constantly making choices about which button to press and which way to go. It really is impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, especially the bouncing. Trying to land on something in 3D games is always a little bit challenging, but this accepts misjudged landings and you don't even notice it's doing it. I think most of that comes from the world design. The streets are littered with jumping opportunities.
Yeah, no matter which way you go, there's always something for you to jump or grind or bounce off.
You'll mostly be grinding and undergrinding around the city like a Tony Hawk game, except without the skateboard. They've just nailed the controls too. It feels so good to grind on rails and on building rooftops.
It's just so much fun grinding, isn't it? Especially the sound effects and the animations that play, and all those little chiptune bits of music that pop in. It's an orchestra of sparkles and animation. Besides the fact that you have very little health, part of the reason you're encouraged to move so much is the amp system. The more crazy things you chain together, the higher your style level will rise, and the more amp augments activate during combat. What that basically means is move around a lot and you might suddenly start throwing mini tornadoes when you melee, or create ice shards when you land. Weapons also have amps once you've leveled them up a bit, so you're always mixing up amps and spicing up the action.
Good weapons too, Bajo. Wacky, but functional.
Who doesn't love dragons? These fireworks stick to your enemies and set them on fire! Then they explode!
And they all have varied levels of effectiveness depending on the enemy you're fighting. But it's when you start switching between them that your own strategies start to form. And this means you get rewarded for trying new things, which is great.
I like to freeze enemies and then just chuck everything else I had at them. Throw in a few ground pounds and we've got a party.
Along with amps, you can also augment overdrives. There's heaps of them too, and they all have their own bonuses, from better style generation to perks for certain weapon types.
We pushed through the campaign for the sake of time, but now I'm getting that urge to go back and find some new amps just to see what they can do, and also to obtain more fabulous clothes.
Fabulous! There aren't any face sliders, but there's a decent selection of pre-designed faces. And overall, the customization options are good enough to add your own flavor.
Are you like a superhero or something?
What?
Best of all, you can change your appearance easily and as often as you like.
You in that top? How brave.
Not quite sure about that bearded lady though, Bajo.
Oh, put that on. I'm sure I'll love it almost as much as you will.
But back to the combat, it's thrilling, isn't it, when you've got a good chain going and things start firing? And also clever how you become more and more powerful as the fights go on if you're doing well.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, it's really satisfying when you finish a fight and you automatically suck up all the ammo and stuff. You're a walking vacuum of satisfaction.
Area clear!
All right, I'm opening up the doors.
You can obtain extra amps in a couple of ways, including simple tower defense missions where you place traps and fight off waves.
We're almost done.
They're quite fun, I thought, but they take a while to get challenging.
Yeah, I think the difficulty lies in multitasking the controls more than anything else. If you're not great at aiming, shooting, jumping, and switching weapons all at the same time, then you might find things tough. But like we said, they've done such a good job with the controls, I don't think that will be an issue for many.
As you progress through the campaign, you'll meet other survivors along the way.
My name's Floyd.
You'll go about completing quests to progress the story like any other open world game. There are plenty of challenges, including weekly ones, but the story missions you encounter do feel mostly original, especially once you get past the first few hours.
Pigeon combo!
I just loved that group of live-action role players, Bajo.
Yeah, me too, and they were much needed as well. The comedy is fun and self-aware, but until that point, it did feel a little starved for interesting stories and characters. And that changes a bit when you start helping out this troupe.
Chandler, sire, mayhap I have a word?
Silence, Anachronizer! We're beyond Bard.
He's dead. Can I be the new Bard? I'm sick of being a smither.
Ye olde role-playing in an apocalypse totally makes sense. I mean, it's what I would do.
Yeah, absolutely, me too. We couldn't test the online at the time of review, but I did have a quick go at E3 earlier this year, and it was pretty fun.
Regardless, the mechanics are so solid, it's worth a look based on that alone. You know, Bajo, I was instantly wowed by the production values of this game, but I did have a little bit of open world fatigue. But the more I played of it, the more I started to really enjoy it. Especially after you unlock the dash and the ground pound leap moves.
Yeah, it's a bit like that, isn't it? You know, I'm not normally into these kind of crackdown superhero open world games, but something about this one really hooked me in. And I think it is that motion focus and those grinding parkour mechanics. They just won me over big time. Plus, the lead female voice actor is Stephanie Lemelin, who voiced Artemis in the Young Justice series from a few years back, and she's fantastic.
Where did all the food go? You stupid fat pigeons ate all the food! Why? You can get by on cigarette butts and litter! Ugh!
The perfect choice for this quirky punk kind of game. Heck, I really like this. I was surprised at how much I liked it, so I'm going to give it 9 out of 10.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of what a dedicated next-gen game can look and play like, which is great. More of this, please. I'm giving it 8 out of 10.
Our vitals, yay! You didn't have any trouble, did you?
Nah, typical quest stuff. Bad guys, bad trees, junkyard side quests. Enjoy that foot spa.
Did you name the game for this week?
It was Kennedy Approach. Released in 1985 and available on the Commodore 64, Amiga, and Atari 8-bit, you assumed the role of an air traffic controller. Safely guiding multiple landings and takeoffs, you had a range of challenges facing you, such as storms and some planes that were low on fuel. And it's unnamed the game for this week because it was partly developed by Sid Meier, the creative mastermind behind the Civilization franchise.
Next week on the show, a game that takes more than just a little inspiration from Dark Souls. It's Lords of the Fallen.
Plus, it's as pretty as Dear Esther, but with something to actually do. The Vanishing of Ethan Carter.
And over on Spawn Point, our show for younger gamers on ABC3 this weekend, a game that you've been asking for us to review, Fantasy Life.
So until next week, may all your bandwidth be fat. Bajo out.
Hex out. Bandwidth be fat.
Nothing like a bit of fat bandwidth.
Like P-H-A-T.
And now we cross quickly to the esports desk. You get it. Come on, guys. We're good. No one's got anywhere to be.